What we are going to talk today about is simulations. The title that I have given it is "The Simulation is Real." There's so many signs that today we as human beings are living and experiencing a simulation of reality. And these simulations aren't even meditations. Like they're not meditations of reality. They're not even descriptive meditations of reality. These simulations are not even based in reality at all. For example, your everyday life is a simulation. Your shirt, your room that you're in, your whole life basically. It's not just you, it's me as well, all of us. And the boundaries between real and something unreal has been permanently blurred in our lives to the point that we cannot even go back to the original. We're going to talk about simulacras. There's an author that is talking about these simulations, and his name is Jean Baudrillard, and he's the author of the book called Simulacras and Simulations. And he has a quote that he says, "We live in a world where there's more and more information and less meaning." To continue on that, have you ever felt like your brain is constantly being hit by informations, by facts, by updates, and by opinions, and yet somehow none of them really stick with you? Because the thing is, in a world of unlimited content, real meaning gets lost in all that noise. But like that's a question you may ask. You may ask, shouldn't more knowledge, more information, more history, and more science make people and make everybody smarter and better informed? Shouldn't that be the case? One of the ideas of uh, Baudrillard is that we're no longer dealing with reality, but we're dealing with simulacras. And simulacras are copies of a world that doesn't exist anymore. The thing is everything kinda refers to something else. And for me to give you some examples about this, for example, in the past, a picture used to capture reality. It used to be something that captures a moment of real life, of something real that was happening. And nowadays, it's a picture is some sort of designed representation of what reality should look like. Think about a painting of a king. A painting of a king used to refer to an actual monarch, but now it's an emoji that basically refers to no one. And it's just an idea, a representation of something that cannot even point to where it's referencing. I have another like example of a princess that I will tell you later on. But think about wars and like war and like people, real people dying. That like you cannot get the feeling of its being real. You cannot have the meaning that it has behind of these videos of war, for example, of real people dying that is going across with some viral dance video on TikTok. Like these things are going all together. And the thing is, if the memory of an event is entirely by news clips on social media, then do we even need the event itself anymore? And what's really terrifying is that we already are living in this society, living in this world, which where it doesn't matter if something is real. It only matters if something feels real. The simulation process is basically it basically begins with a model that generates a sign or a symbol representing a reality or referring to a reality is something that is real. But advancing in that simulation process, those signs lose connection with the original. I'm going to give you some examples about this later on. It's the thing is, those signs take on their own life and they become simulacras. It gets to a point that those copies have no originals. They're copies with no originals. They're simulations of themselves. And there are four levels. There are four levels of simulacra. The first one is the reflection of a basic reality. That's basically the true copy. That's an artifact of a real and unblemished original. Simple. The second part of the second stage of simulacras, what it does is it reverts reality. And I don't really think if it matters or not, but what it does is it's intentionally or unintentionally, it's distorting the image of the original. It's linked to the original, but it's changed. I guess I don't know, but I guess when I'm explaining to you about these things, you can already get the ideas if you have tried to make pictures or images with ChatGPT or other AIs. Because sometimes even when you tell don't change anything, it changes it. That's a kind of simulation. You can get like the references uh, from what I'm explaining to references from like ChatGPT or like these other AIs, especially with images, because what we're talking about here has a lot to do with like images and well, the reality that we have sort of just is created around these images and ideas and symbols and signs that we have built for everything, which I'm going to get to in a bit. But the third stage of these simulacras, what it does is it masks the absence of reality. So you can tell step by step, it's getting worse and worse, and we're losing touch with the original thing or with the reality itself. The thing is, what this third stage does, it like makes the thing it looks real, but it's not tied to any original form. It looks real, but it's not tied to any original form. It's like created of some sort. It's not real. It's like that's a kind of simulation that he has. But the fourth stage, which is the last stage, is just pure simulacra, which in this stage you can't tell, you can't basically tell the difference between real or unreal. We cannot tell apart in some sense, and there's no relation whatsoever to reality. This is that last stage of it. I'm gonna talk to you about like a. I'm gonna talk to you about a tribe called Fuego people, and what happened was when ethnologists first got there to visit them, They're really interested in their culture, the culture of this tribe, and the way they are living. Basically, really interested in it. And what they did was they started documenting these people. They started documenting the way they lived and the way it was going on their daily day basis. And the thing is, after a little bit, after there were these people, this tribe, were aware that they are being observed by these other guys as producers of kind, they started to act differently. They started to basically be performers in a sense. They started to do their tradition more often. They started to dress more traditionally and better in some way more often. They started to live in a different way because they were aware that they are being seen by other people, and they wanted to have that good look and have that they wanted to be observed in a sense better. Uh, you can say better than how they were, but I want to say hyper real. They wanted to look like that. And the thing is, these publishers, these guys published the documents that I had about them, the way they documented them, they published it. And the funny part about it is because these people were living in a way that they were living, started to change, started to do more, started to act more. And the thing is, after these things being published, even they started to read and refer to those behaviors that were documented, which were not real, or let's say they were real, they were exaggerated. They started to refer to those as a way to even understand their own traditions. So the younger generation of that tribe reads that and they idealize that documented things, which were truly exaggerated, as a real thing. So they can live like that or they can keep the traditions. I guess you can see the connections with our lives. I don't know where you're from, uh, but we have those things as well that we do, like my own culture. Like we read about those things, but uh, even nowadays, if you want to document something, especially when it comes to celebrities or when it comes to athletes and all that, I don't know about you, but I always felt like something was off. And even if you didn't feel like that, the thing is, it all looks so much like just a performance and not the real thing. And is so many of these things are just exaggerated. And that's the thing with these simulations. The thing it does is that it makes the line between real and representation to just disappear. It makes it disappear. Take Walmart, for example. What is Walmart? Walmart is a place that you can buy basically anything from like, I don't know, from clothing, from like food products, like vegetables, fruits, um, and it's a thing that it's not just a supermarket. It's what this book refers to as a hypermarket. Because what it is you just see these signs. It just becomes these signs and these symbols and these images. And when you look, for example, at vegetables or these fruits at Walmart, it's like so well suited. It's like uh, I don't know how to tell you, but like it's so beautifully presented. It all looks so good, which is not natural. It's not natural at all. You go to a farmer's market, vegetables don't look like that. Another thing you can look at is Disneyland, for example. Disneyland is this really huge place um, of this unreal world. It's a presentation of this all these cartoons and all these beautiful fantasy things, and you can see it like what it does is it's kind of excuse me, it kind of camouflages our real world, which our real world is just a stage and some like stage. Everything is almost fake. You can see it's a world full of lies, and it's like to a point that a fake world, a fake place like Disneyland, is more honest than the outside world that just pretends to be real. Like that's a funny thing that I learned about this. Like for example, if I tell some random person now to draw a princess, it would probably they would probably draw like a princess from this this Disney princesses and stuff like that, right? It would probably do that. It would probably draw uh, a princess like that. That's the thing. That's these simulations. They have changed our definition of what is real, and that's another thing. Even you define like this. You define all of these simulations over like the real thing, and these simulations that are taking over by the age of 2 or 3, and it's making it's making this hyper real world more important than the real. Take your social media, for example, like our social media pages. It's basically a representation of ourselves. You, every photo that you take, for example, is a representation of you in a way that you look the best, or I don't know, stuff like that. And these representations are just basically overtaking an original. It makes you become a simulation of yourself. Baudrillard suggests that in this hyper-real world, the consumption of signs and symbols and images don't just mask reality, they become it. They become reality. These taglines, these brands, like they have transcended the physical products. Think about Mac, for example. When you hear about it, you think of the product. You think that the product is that thing, it's the brand. It's it's a way that it's that these simulations are or have overtaken the reality, the products. For example, in politics, the simulation of a candidate is more important than their ability and beliefs. And why is that? Why do they win? It's because we ourselves, we prefer simulations over reality. We wanted more, and it's basically more important to us. The simulations are more important to us. We want these simulations. And in this world that like everything is fake, the celebrities, that the products, that like everything is fake, our dopamine comes from these places. They come from these simulations, where we are addicted to simulations. We have sold our souls to hyper real things. And I guess the question that you can have after all of this is, can we get back? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. And it's there are arguments about it. There are some arguments that say we are so deep into these simulations, we're so deep into this thing that we cannot ever go back to the original. We cannot ever go back. But as well, there are like some arguments that I want to believe in, to be honest. That there are still pockets of it somewhere. It's maybe hidden. There may be small. There may not be many, but there are still small aspects of reality remaining, like maybe like some smile that you see on someone's face, or like, I don't know, an artist that makes art for the sake of making it, not just for the money. And the thing is, we may not be able to completely get out, but what we can definitely do is we can definitely become smarter about navigating it. And one thing I want you to remember is anything that's taking you further from who you are is a simulation. Clothing, ego, marketing, ads, labels, anything that is taking you further away from who you are is a simulation. And essentially, just go back to nature. It's, in some sense, we are nature. We are a part of it, if not the nature itself. And even a simulation of we being not one with it. It's this idea is some kind of simulation. And another thing I would say is bring back some kind of depth in your life, slow living. And no matter your opinion on something, you're misinformed to a certain point. To some degree, you're misinformed. Whenever anyone is super certain about something, the more you should be skeptical about it. Even yourself. Even if you're so certain about yourself, that's the moment you should really doubt yourself and be skeptical about it. And the most radical thing that you could do today is just slow down and unplug.